Tuesdays with Morrie, a character analysis of Morrie Schwartz. In this tragically true story, we read about a professor, Morrie Schwartz, diagnosed with a deadly disease, ALS, and determined to teach one final class on the meaning of life. A quote on page 43 of the book from Morrie gives us a summary of his belief on the meaning of life. So many people walk around with a meaningless life. They seem half asleep, even when they're busy doing things they think are important. This is because they are chasing the wrong things. The way to get meaning in your life is to devote yourself to loving others. Devote yourself to your community around you. Devote yourself to creating something that gives you purpose and meaning. The Morrie we see and read about is very admirable and respectable. On the surface, he seems excited, strong, courageous, humble, kind, and loving. He seems to face his disease and ultimately his cruel death sentence with bravery and humility. His quote, "Study me in my slow and patient demise, watch what happens, learn with me," seems to capture this spirit best. Little do we ever see weakness or fear. Instead, we see his attitude of triumph. He refused to be depressed. Instead, Morrie had become a lightning rod of ideas. Don't get me wrong, I believe that he had many of these character traits. However, I question the reasons and motives for them. This causes me to question many of his statements on life. You see, when I look at Morrie Schwartz, I see a sad, somewhat depressed old man who longs to be remembered. He longs for significance. When you think about it, we all long for that. I believe we see a bit of what's happening inside of him in this quote from the book. There are some mornings where I cry and mourn for myself. Some mornings I'm so angry and bitter, but it doesn't last too long. Then I get up and I say, I want to live. He wants to live. He mentioned this earlier, too. Ted, he said, when all this started, I asked myself, am I going to withdraw from the world like most people, or am I going to live? But what to him is living? Well, this goes back to the meaning of life and purpose. He decided, with what little time he had left, to try and make an impact. He pushed himself harder and harder to create aphorisms. He jotted down thoughts on yellow pads, envelopes, folders, scrap paper. He wrote bite-sized philosophies about living with death's shadow. He wanted so badly to be remembered, to make his life matter. He did all of what he did to bring meaning to the last days of his life. To a degree, he got his wish. 20 years later, there's a book about him, a movie, YouTube videos, and his aphorisms. How long will that last? Maybe 200 years, maybe 1,000. What then? Will he be forgotten? Will any of this matter anymore? His purpose, his meaning, it died with him. Though some only slowly fades, it is all temporal. It is all fleeing. You see, I believe that you, me, Morrie, everyone on this planet lives eternally after we die. Our souls live on. I also believe that unless you are trusting in Jesus Christ for your salvation, acknowledge that you are sinful and deprived, and live a life fully devoted, not to family or friends, but wholly to God. Unless those things are true of you, I believe that you will spend eternity paying for your sin in hell. And no amount of fame, family, memory, influence, money, or material things in this world will change that. My main purpose, my meaning in life, is to serve and enjoy Jesus Christ and His creation until He decides to bring me to live eternally in a paradise He has designed for me.